Hey everybody, welcome back. Mike here. I don't even know why I'm laughing. Get it together, man. Hey everybody, welcome back. Mike here. Today we're gonna talk about Google Drive. I'm gonna take you from the very beginning, from the first time you log into Google Drive to being able to do pretty much anything that you wanna do within Google Drive. So let's jump right into it. We got a lot to cover. Before you get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button really quick. It only takes a second. And if you hit the bell, that'll make sure that you get all of the notifications from my latest stuff, videos just like this one. I guess I'm assuming you're gonna like it, but we'll see. All right, so let's jump right in. Now, the first prerequisite to using Google Drive is that you have a Google account. You will need to sign up for this at google.com. You can actually click on the sign in button in the top right. From there, you can then go to create account for myself and then just follow the prompts. Once that account is finished being created, you're ready to log into Google Drive, and that's where we're gonna pick up right here. All right, so once your account is created, we're ready to pick up from here. We just need to go to google.com and click sign in. And in our case, I created a test account with the name Mark Smith just to illustrate some of these concepts. So I'm gonna log in with that one. And I'm gonna go ahead and put in my password, which is, you guys should know better than this. I'm not gonna show you my password. And from there, we'll go ahead and click next. All right, so now we're logged into Google, but to get to Google Drive, we need to go to the top right of the screen at google.com, and you'll go to Google Apps right here. And from there, you'll just look for Drive. Mine is located here. Yours may be located somewhere else depending on when you watch this video or even the system you're using. Just look for Drive and go ahead and click that. All right, so that brings us into Google Drive. Now, let's talk about the navigation really quickly before we kind of get into the weeds. First thing that I like to point out, you have your storage utilization right here. This says we have 0 bytes out of 15 gigabytes used. Honestly, this is a pretty small amount, so if you find yourself filling it up, you can upgrade by clicking buy storage. I'm sure Google is happy to take more of your money. From there, we also have the navigation pane on the left. We see My Drive here. If we expand it, there's nothing there. We don't have any folders or anything like that. We'll go over how to create those. We also have computers. I'm gonna skip over that for now, but what I will say is we are able to upload files to Google Drive through this web interface. We're able to download files. We're able to share files with other people. If you want the downloadable version of Google Drive so that you have your files stored locally and they're synced to the cloud, what you would want to do is go to this gear right here and click Get Drive for Desktop. Again, in our case, I'm not using that. I actually don't use that at all. I only use the web interface, but you can use that also. So continuing down, we also have Shared with Me, pretty self-explanatory. If someone else has shared a file with you based on this same Gmail address, then those files would show up under Shared with Me. Obviously, I don't have any. This is a brand new account. We have recent, same thing. If we've accessed recent files, uploaded, that sort of thing, those would show up here. Now we have starred. I'm gonna come back to this, so we're gonna skip this for now. And then obviously we have trash. Trash with Google Drive will stay in here, so if you delete something, it'll stay here for up to 30 days. So you can actually recover it, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. All right, the last thing I wanna cover while we're here is you also have this search bar right here, and this is a way that you can search for files within your entire Google Drive, and it's actually pretty helpful. Now, as far as putting files here and being able to create folders and all of that, your best friend with Google Drive is going to be this plus sign right here that says New. If you click that, we have a few options. First, we have New Folder. We have File Upload. File Upload is I want to upload an individual file, a text file, an image, an MP3, a movie, whatever the case is. We also have Folder Upload. That is, I want to upload the entire folder and all of its contents inside of it. You do also have the option to create other Google products from here, such as Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, and so on. But in our case, we're not going to go into that today. That's pretty self-explanatory, and I've actually done some videos on other Google products, such as Google Sheets, so you can watch those too. All right, in our case, we want to create a folder, so we'll click New Folder, and I'll just put Our First Folder, and we'll click Create. All right, so we see that show up here, and you know what, let's go ahead and just do another one. Let's do another new folder. We'll say Our Second Folder. All right, so we have a couple of folders showing up here, and now you see that if we expand My Drive, we have those folders here. Obviously, they're empty. Now, one of the kind of cool things about Google Drive is you see right here, it says drop files here or use the new button. So I showed you how if you click new, you can say upload file or folder. Well, if you have the files already opened, you can actually just drag them onto this screen and drop them, and your files will be uploaded to Google Drive. Let me actually show you what that looks like. All right, so in our case, I have this folder on my local computer with the Nerdy Tech logo. If I take that and I drag it over here and drop it, we will see on the bottom right, it says uploading one file. We see Nerdy Tech logo PNG has been uploaded. If you click this file or this little file icon right here, it'll actually tell us where it's at. So if I click it, it takes us right to there, which we're already there anyway. Now, the other thing you should know about this kind of upload status, I guess you would call it, on the bottom right, is it tells you if the upload was successful or not based on this icon right here, that little green check mark. So if you see anything other than a green check mark, it probably wasn't successful. You might want to give it another try. Now, in addition to that, we can also do that with folders. I could take this folder, and this one has, the name of it is folder with stuff. If I open it, it has a couple of other folders inside of it. If I just click that entire folder and drag it over here and drop it, we see it now says folder with stuff 3 of 3. So that's the count of how many files it uploaded. But now we see that we're still inside of our first folder here, and inside of it we now have a folder. So we have folders inside of folders, and then we also have our files down below here. Now in our case, we can also do some cool stuff within Google Drive. So if I go into this folder, I'll double click, I can go into it. If I right click on one of these, I get a bunch of different options for files and folders within Google Drive. So one of those that could be very helpful is Move To. So if you want to move files around within Google Drive, we can click Move To. Then we specify a different folder. So I could say, you know what, put this in that other folder. So I say Move. It disappears. If I go into this one, we see now that folder is there as well. So that's one option. If we want to go back to a different kind of point in the hierarchy of all these folders, at the very top, My Drive takes you kind of back to your home view for all of your files. If we click My First or Our First Folder, we go back to that main folder we created. So that's a very easy way to navigate within Google Drive. Now let's click on this image. Let's go ahead and right click on it. We have some other options. We can rename the file if we need to. We also have the option that says Add to Starred. And I said we would come back to that. What that does, if I click it, that essentially makes this file kind of tagged so that now every time we go to the Starred tab here, we see that file. Now you might be asking, why would I do that if I can already go to the file somewhere else, right? This is really designed for the files that you use a lot. It's kind of like pinning it. So that way you can kind of put a pin in it on, your board, and that way you come to Starred and they're all there. All of the things that are important to you, they'll be right here. Now, if you accidentally start it and you don't want it to be starred, you can right click on it and you can go to Remove from Starred. So if I click that, it's gone. The file is still there, obviously, and we can verify that, by the way. If we go to the search bar, let's just type in Nerdy. We'll start typing that and I'll just hit enter to see what happens. There's our logo right there. While we're here, we have the option, if you have a lot of results, you can use these filter buttons at the top to be able to find based on certain characteristics of that file. I'm not going to go into that today, but you kind of get the idea there. All right, a couple other things that I find are really useful, things that I do a lot in Google Drive, is downloading files, deleting files, and sharing them. So let's go into downloading files. This is really easy, actually. So if I click on the file and I go, let me kind of X out of this one right here. I scroll down, I get some data on the file itself. I can see download permissions. I see when it was created, modified, all of that. But you'll notice I don't actually see a download button here, and that is because it's actually up here. So these 3 little dots, if you click that and we go down to download, that's where we can find the ability to download this file. That's one of the ways, at least. Likewise, while we're there, we could also make a copy of this file. If you needed to, that's how you could do that. But in my case, I could also just right click on the image and I could just go to download. So there's a couple of different ways to do these things within Google Drive. All right, in our case though, let's just say I want to delete this file. I said that was one of the things we end up doing a lot. All you have to do is right click on the file and go to remove. And it says it's been moved to trash. If we go to trash, we see the file is there. Now, if we want to permanently delete everything in here now, we can click empty trash. But let's say we made a mistake. So now we say, you know what, I didn't really want that file deleted. Let's right click on it. We can click restore and the file goes back to where it was. So that's how you can recover those deleted files. Maybe you deleted it on accident. All right, the last thing I want to cover while we're here is how to share a file. So in our case, let's say we have our first folder and I want to share that so that someone else has access to it. All I have to do is right click on it and I can go to share right here. All right, from here it tells us who has access first under people with access, and it also shows the permissions that they have. In my case, this Mark Smith fictitious character is the owner, right? We're on his account. And general access, it says here, only people with access can open the link. So basically, only these people, only Mark Smith can access this. It's a private file by default. Now, if we want to add someone to this, there's a couple of ways we could do this. One is we could click the drop down and we could say anyone with link. What that means is that if we copy the link right here, so I copied it, now I can just go paste it in an email or whatever. Anyone that opens that link will have access to this folder. So this is definitely not ideal from a security standpoint if you really are worried about who's going to look at your files. But if you have something that, you know, it's not quite a big deal if someone else gets to it, if that email got forwarded or something like that, this could be an option to do that, to give them access quickly. Or perhaps if you didn't know their email address, this might be another way. Now you can also say, for anyone with the link, what is their access? By default, they'll be a viewer only, so they can open the files, but they're not going to be able to comment on them. They won't be able to delete them or modify them. So they will be able to get to the files, but that's it. And honestly, that's decent in most cases. But let's go ahead and change that back to restricted. So now it requires us to explicitly say, I want, you know, John to have access to this file. Or in this case, let's add someone. We'll add myself, my actual email address, which I'm not going to share with everybody, unfortunately, but I'll type it in here. All right, so I typed my email in the box. It says that my role will be editor. I can change that if I want to be a viewer or whatever the case is, right, for this person. I can also specify a message. Now, I don't have to check notify. That basically means I will give them access, but they're not going to get an email about that access. So it will show up in their shared with me on the left here, but it will not send them an email saying, hey, you have access. I recommend leaving that checked, and ideally including a small note is always good because then they know what file they've got access to and why they have access, that sort of thing. All right, that's all there really is to it. So once you do that, we hit send, and now it says access updated. And now if we were to click on that folder, one of the other ways we could see the access, we could always go back to right click and share. But one of the other ways we could do it is we could click on it, and in the right pane over here, it says who has access. And it says right here, owned by you, shared with Michael Ghazala. So that's really it. That's kind of how you would share it out to people either by email or by just giving them a link. All right, so I know we went through a lot of stuff there. I would not be surprised if you had to rewatch this video, but I do hope it was helpful. We covered all of the major things that I think you should have to do within Google Drive. If there's something I left out, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to consider doing a video on it. Be sure to subscribe on your way out. I appreciate every single subscription. I'm planning something big for 10,000 subscribers. I don't know what it'll be, but we're gonna do something cool. So until next time, stay safe and healthy and take care of each other.